Valix crouched behind the fallen pillar, watching the energy shield flicker in the darkness. The shield made a buzzing sound each time it weakened. Soon it would fail completely. And then they would all die. The horde was coming closer. Everyone could hear them now. Thousands of legs clicking on the metal floors below, hungry mandibles snapping as they searched for food. They had already eaten everyone else on this planet. Only Valix and their small group remained. "Ambassador," whispered Zala, crawling over to where Valix hid. Her blue scales were dark with fear. "I have found something in the ancient files." Valix turned their 6 eyes toward the chief scientist. "What good are old files now? We are the last ones. When that shield fails, the horde will eat us like they ate all the others." "There is a ritual," Zala said, voice shaking. "Something our ancestors found long ago. They were too afraid to use it." A loud bang made them both jump. The shield was getting weaker. "Tell me," Valix demanded. Zala pulled out a glowing tablet. Old symbols filled the screen. "The files say we can call for help from another place. We can bring a creature here that even the horde fears." "What creature could scare the horde?" Valix asked. Nothing scared the horde. They had eaten their way across half the galaxy. "A human," Zala whispered. All of Valix's eyes went wide. "No. The legends say humans are too dangerous. They come from a death world. They eat meat. They have wars for fun." Another bang. The shield was dying. "Do we have a choice?" Zala asked. "The horde is already here. What could be worse?" Valix looked around at the other survivors. 20 Cerellians huddled in the dark chamber, all that remained of their once proud coalition. The rest had become food for the endless swarm. The shield sparked and dimmed. "Do it," Valix said. "Call the human." Zala worked quickly. She drew strange symbols on the floor with glowing chalk. The other survivors watched in fear. Some covered their eyes. They had all heard the stories about humans, creatures that could survive anything, that fought everything, that never stopped until they won. "I need your authorization code," Zala said. Valix hesitated. Once they did this, there was no going back. But the sound of the horde climbing closer made the choice clear. "Authorization granted," Valix said, pressing their palm to the tablet. The symbols on the floor began to glow. Zala spoke words in a language older than their civilization. The air grew thick and heavy. Something was happening. The shield gave one final flash and died. Screams filled the chamber. The horde had broken through. Valix could see their dark shapes pouring through the doorway. Giant insects with razor-sharp mandibles and too many legs. Their shells gleamed black in the dim light. "Hurry," Valix shouted. Zala spoke faster. The symbols flared brighter, so bright it hurt to look at them. A column of white light shot up from the floor. The horde hesitated. They had never seen anything like this before. Then the light exploded outward. Everyone was thrown back. Valix hit the wall hard, all 6 eyes blinking to clear their vision. When they could see again, someone new stood in the center of the chamber. It was smaller than Valix expected. 2 arms, 2 legs, covered in strange fabric clothing. Brown fur on its head. Flat face with only 2 eyes. In one hand, it held a small container that steamed in the cool air. The human looked around, clearly confused. "What the hell?" it said, then noticed the frozen horde warriors. "Are those giant bugs?" Valix could not move. None of the Cerellians could. They had summoned a human. A real human. The stories were true. The human set down its container on a nearby rock. "Somebody want to tell me what's going on here?" The horde recovered first. The nearest warrior let out a shriek and charged at the human, mandibles spread wide. Everyone would remember what happened next for the rest of their lives. The human smiled. John Miller blinked and rubbed his eyes. One moment he had been in his apartment in Chicago, sipping his morning coffee and watching the rain. Now he stood in a dark room filled with terrified blue creatures and giant bugs straight out of a horror movie. The biggest bug charged right at him, its mouthparts clicking together. John did something that shocked everyone watching. He didn't run. He didn't scream. He stepped forward to meet it. "You picked the wrong human," John said quietly. The bug jumped at him, aiming its sharp mandibles at his throat. John moved faster than seemed possible. He grabbed the container he had brought with him, his coffee mug, and smashed it into the bug's face. Hot coffee splashed everywhere. The bug screamed and stumbled back, clawing at its eyes. John didn't give it time to recover. He kicked over a broken piece of equipment and grabbed a long metal rod from the wreckage. The bug charged again, blind and angry. John swung the rod like a baseball bat. The sound of the impact echoed through the chamber. The bug's head cracked open, green fluid spraying out. It twitched once and fell dead. The other bugs stopped moving. They had never seen anything fight back like this before. John turned to the blue aliens, who pressed themselves against the walls in fear. "Okay," he said, breathing hard. "Can someone tell me what's going on?" Velix found their voice first. You are human." "Last time I checked," John said. "John Miller. Now explain why I'm not in Chicago anymore." The bugs started chattering to each other. More were pushing through the doorway, filling the chamber. John counted at least 20, with more coming. "We summoned you," Zala said quickly. "Those are the Horde. They eat everything. They have destroyed our worlds, killed our people. We are all that remains." John looked at the gathering bugs. "So you brought me here to fight them?" "The legends say humans are warriors," Valak said. "They say you come from a death world. That you fear nothing." John laughed. The sound made the bugs step back. "I'm not a warrior. I'm an accountant. But these things really piss me off." The bugs attacked together this time. 5 of them rushed at John, trying to overwhelm him. The aliens watched in amazement as he moved. John swung his metal rod, knocking 2 bugs aside. He ducked under another's attack and rolled between its legs. When it turned to follow him, he drove the rod through its soft underbelly. Green blood poured out. 2 more bugs tried to flank him. John grabbed a sharp piece of crystal from the rubble and threw it into one bug's eye. As it screamed, he used its body as a shield against the other bug's attack. The mandibles meant for John bit deep into its own kind. "Is he dancing?" Zala whispered to Valix. "No," Valix replied, all 6 eyes fixed on the human. "He is hunting." John fought like nothing they had ever seen. He used everything around him as a weapon: rocks, broken equipment, even parts of dead bugs. When his metal rod bent, he picked up a bug's severed claw and used that instead. The Horde had never encountered anything like this. Their usual prey ran away or died quickly. This small, soft creature fought back with savage intelligence. It predicted their moves, used their size against them, and seemed to get stronger as the battle went on. After 10 minutes, the chamber floor was covered in dead bugs. John stood in the middle, covered in green blood, breathing hard but still ready. The remaining bugs backed away toward the door. "That all you got?" John called after them. The bugs fled. John turned back to the aliens. "Now," he said, wiping bug guts off his face, "let's talk about how I get home." Valak stepped forward carefully. "Human John Miller, we cannot send you back." "Not yet." "Why not?" "Because," Zala said, "that was just a scout group. The real Horde is coming. Millions of them." John looked at the dead bugs around him. Then he smiled again. "Well then," he said, "I guess we better get ready." The chamber grew quiet. Green blood dripped from the walls. John looked at the small group of aliens huddled in the corner, still afraid of him. "Hey," he said gently, "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just confused about what's happening here." Valak stepped forward, though their legs still shook. "We meant no harm in bringing you here, human. We are desperate." John sat down on a piece of rubble, suddenly tired. The fight had taken more energy than he wanted to admit. "Start from the beginning. Who are you?" What are those things? I am Valix, ambassador of the Saurelian Coalition, the blue alien said. Or what is left of it. Those creatures are the Horde. They appeared from deep space 5 cycles ago. Cycles? John asked. Years in your times, Zalat explained. She seemed less afraid now, her scientist's curiosity taking over. They consume all organic matter. Entire planets stripped bare in days. John nodded, looking at the dead bugs. And nobody can stop them. We have tried everything, Valix said. Energy weapons, biological attacks, even crashing ships into their queens. Nothing works. They adapt too quickly. A distant roar echoed through the complex. More were coming. We need to move, John said, standing up. Is there somewhere safer? The aliens led him through dark corridors. John noticed they walked slowly, carefully. Their bodies were not made for running or fighting. How did you summon me? John asked as they moved. Ancient technology, Zala said. Our ancestors found it long ago. They studied other species across dimensions. Humans frightened them so much they sealed the knowledge away. Why? John asked. We're not that scary. Velix made a sound like laughter. You just killed 12 Horde warriors with a coffee mug and scrap metal. Most species would have died from fear alone. They'd reached a larger chamber with working lights and computer screens. Maps showed red dots spreading across star systems. This is our command center, Valix said. What remains of it? John studied the maps. Show me everything about these bugs. How they fight. How they think. Everything you know. For the next hour, the aliens explained. The Horde moved like locusts, consuming everything in their path. They had a hive mind controlled by queens. They could evolve resistance to weapons within days. But they're still just animals, John said finally. Big, scary animals. But animals. What do you mean? Zala asked. They attack head-on. No strategy, no planning. They rely on numbers and fear. John smiled. Where I come from, we deal with pests all the time. An alarm started blaring. The screen showed hundreds of red dots approaching their position. They found us, Valix said, fear returning to their voice. John walked to a wall display showing the complex layout. Okay, here's what we're going to do. These bugs are used to chasing prey that runs. So we're not going to run. But we cannot fight them all. Zala protested. Not directly, John agreed. But we can outsmart them. Show me your environmental controls. The aliens watched in confusion as John studied their systems. He asked questions about power flow, structural weak points, and emergency protocols. Then he started giving orders. Seal all doors except these 2 paths. Increase gravity in this corridor to maximum. Vent atmosphere from these sections. And do you have any flammable materials? You want to burn them? Valix asked, horrified. No, John said. I want them to think we'll burn them. Fear works both ways. The Horde hit the complex like a wave, but instead of frightened prey scattering in all directions, they found a maze of traps. Doors slammed shut, separating groups. Heavy gravity crushed them in narrow passages. Empty sections made them lose time searching for food that wasn't there. And in the center of it all, John waited with his small group of aliens, ready for the ones that made it through. They're learning, Zala warned, watching the screens. They're starting to avoid the traps. John nodded. Good. That means they can feel fear. And if they can feel fear, we can beat them. The first wave broke through the defenses. But this time, John wasn't alone. He had taught the Saurelians to fight back, each according to their abilities. The battle for survival had truly begun. The Horde swarmed into the command center like a black river of death. John stood his ground, a salvaged energy weapon in his hands. He had spent only minutes studying it, but that was enough. Remember what I taught you, he called to the Saurelians. Use their weight against them. Let them come to you. A massive warrior charged at John, bigger than any he had fought before. Its armor gleamed like polished stone. John fired the energy weapon. The beam bounced off harmlessly. The warrior's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. It raised its claws to strike. John dropped the useless weapon and dove forward, sliding between the creature's legs. As he passed underneath, he grabbed a loose cable from the floor and wrapped it around the warrior's back leg. The huge bug tried to turn, but the cable caught. It stumbled, crashing into two other warriors. John was already moving, using the chaos to his advantage. How does he know what to do? Zala asked Valix. They watched from behind a barricade as John fought. Humans have something called pattern recognition, Valix replied, remembering the old texts. They see connections we cannot. They learn faster than any other species. John had picked up a fallen warrior's claw and was using it like a sword. He moved through the battle like water, never where the horde expected him to be. When they lunged, he sidestepped. When they grouped together, he found ways to make them hit each other. But it was more than just fighting. John was teaching. See how they always attack high? He shouted to the Cerealians. That's because their eyes are on top of their heads. Stay low. The aliens began to copy his movements. They were not natural fighters, but they were smart. They learned. Velix found courage they did not know they had. Using their smaller size, they darted between the warriors' legs, attaching magnetic charges to their undersides. The charges were not strong enough to kill, but they confused the horde's senses. Zala used her scientific mind differently. She noticed the warriors communicated through chemical signals. Working quickly at her station, she synthesized a compound that smelled like their retreat pheromone. When she released it into the air vents, half the attacking force fled in confusion. That's brilliant, John called out as he wrestled with another warrior. Keep thinking like that. The battle raged for hours. John never seemed to tire, though his movements became more efficient, more deadly. He had found weak points in the horde's armor: joints, eye clusters, breathing vents. He shared each discovery with the Cerealians. Slowly, impossibly, they began to win. The last warrior fell with a crash that shook the floor. Green blood covered everything. John stood in the center of the carnage, breathing hard but still alert. Is everyone okay? He asked. The Cerealians emerged from their positions. Some were injured, but none had died. They looked at John with new eyes. You are not what we expected, Valix said softly. John wiped green blood from his face. What did you expect? The legends say humans are monsters, Zala replied. Creatures of pure destruction. John laughed. We can be, but we're also problem solvers. We adapt, we learn, and we protect those who need help. An alert sounded from the computers. Zala rushed to check. More are coming, she reported. Much more. The main fleet has detected us. John nodded thoughtfully. Good. Good. Valix asked, shocked. Now we know they're afraid, John explained. They wouldn't send their main fleet for a small group unless they see us as a real threat. Fear makes them predictable. He turned to the gathered Cerealians. You all fought well today. You prove you can adapt too. But this was just practice. The real test is coming. Valix straightened their spine. What do you need from us? John smiled. It was not the terrifying warrior's grin from before, but something warmer. I need you to help me think. Humans are good at war, but we're better when we have allies. Show me everything about your technology. Together, we might just save your species. The Cerealians looked at each other. For the first time since the horde appeared, they felt something besides fear. They felt hope. News traveled faster than light through the communication networks. Species all across the galaxy heard the impossible story. A human had killed hundreds of horde warriors. For the first time in years, the killing swarm had been turned back. John sat with the Cerealian leaders around a cracked table, studying maps of the galaxy. Red dots showed systems already consumed by the horde. Blue showed what remained. There's too much red, John said grimly. It gets worse every day. Valix replied, "Most species have given up fighting. They run until they cannot run anymore." John traced his finger along the map. "These bugs spread out like they're looking for something. What do they want?" "Food," Zala answered. "They consume everything organic." "No," John shook his head. "Even locusts leave eventually. These things keep pressing forward. They have a goal." The room fell silent. None of them had considered this before. A communication alert blinked on the main screen. Valix answered it, and a face appeared. Purple scales, 4 eyes, speaking rapidly in a clicking language. "That's Crix of the Thalian Republic," Valix explained to John. "They heard about you. They want to know if the stories are true." John leaned toward the screen. "Tell them yes, and tell them we're going to fight back." As Valix translated, more alerts began appearing. Species they had not heard from in months were calling. Everyone wanted to know about the human who could kill a horde. "This is bigger than I thought," John muttered. Over the next few hours, John spoke to dozens of alien races. Each had abandoned their worlds to the horde. Each had weapons and ships, but no hope. "They're all waiting to die," John said after the last call. "They've forgotten how to fight." "Can you teach them?" Zala asked. "Like you taught us." John thought for a moment. "I can teach them tactics, but that's not enough. They need to remember why they're fighting. They need hope." He asked Zala to set up a broadcast to every ship and station that would listen. When the connections were ready, John stood before the camera. "My name is John Miller," he began. "I'm human. Yesterday, your people thought humans were monsters from legend. Today, I want you to know the truth." He held up his hands. "I have no claws, no armor, no acid spit or hive mind. I'm just flesh and bone. But I killed 300 horde warriors with salvaged weapons and broken equipment." Murmurs spread through the watching crowds on countless ships. The horde want you to believe they're unstoppable. They want you to run, to hide, to give up. But they bleed. They die. They fear. John paused, letting his words sink in. "Where I come from, we have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to win is for good people to do nothing. You've been running long enough. It's time to stand and fight." "But how?" Someone called from the crowd. "We don't know how to fight like you." "You don't need to fight like me," John replied. "Fight like you. Use what makes your species special. The Cerelians here used chemistry and engineering. Find your strength." He outlined a plan. Simple at first. Share information, coordinate movements, set traps. Work together instead of running alone. "The horde wins by dividing us," John concluded. "They hunt us one species at a time. But together, we outnumber them 1,000 to 1. Together, we can win." The broadcast ended. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alerts began. First one, then 10, then hundreds. Ships changing course. Fleets regrouping. Species that had been enemies for centuries offering to share technology. Velix watched in amazement. "They're listening to you." "They're listening to hope," John corrected. "I just reminded them it exists." In the depths of space, horde sensors detected the change. For the first time in their existence, their prey was turning to face them. And at the center of it all, one human smiled. The tide was turning. The warning came 3 days later. Every screen in the command center turned red. A massive shape appeared on the long-range sensors, bigger than anything they had seen before. "The Queen," Valix whispered, all 6 eyes wide with fear. "She comes herself." John studied the displays. Behind the enormous Queen ship, thousands of smaller vessels spread across space like a storm cloud. "How long until they reach us?" 6 hours, Zala replied, her claws shaking on the controls. "Maybe less." John nodded, thinking fast. "Call everyone. Every ship that answered our broadcast. Tell them the Queen is coming here." "But they will not arrive in time," Valix protested. "They don't need to," John said with a strange smile. We just need the Queen to know they're coming." While Velix made the calls, John and Zala worked on something new. They had been experimenting with horde biology, studying the dead warriors from the earlier battle. "Their hive mind is their strength," John explained as he mixed chemicals. "But it's also their weakness. Everything flows from the Queen to the drones. What if we reverse it?" Zala's eyes lit up with understanding. "A virus. Something that travels backward through their network." "Exactly. But we need to deliver it directly to the Queen." The hours passed quickly. Ships from dozens of species began appearing at the edge of the system. Not enough to win a direct fight, but enough to make the horde nervous. John suited up in modified armor the Cerealians had built for him. It was crude but would protect him in space for a short time. "You cannot go alone," Valak said. "It is suicide." "Maybe," John agreed. "But I'm the only one who can get close enough. The horde expect you to run. They don't expect anyone to fly straight at them." He climbed into a small fighter craft, the virus container secured to his chest. The plan was insane. Use the fighter as a missile, crash through the Queen's defenses, and inject the virus directly into her chamber. "Human John Miller," Valak said formally, "if you do not return, know that you have changed everything. The galaxy will remember you." John grinned. "I'll be back. Keep my coffee warm." The fighter launched. John flew straight toward the massive Queen ship, dodging defensive fire. Smaller horde vessels tried to intercept him, but he was too fast, too unpredictable. As he approached the Queen ship, its true size became clear. It was like a small moon, bristling with weapons and swarming with defenders. John increased speed. The fighter's shields screamed warnings. He ignored them. At the last moment, he ejected. The fighter continued forward, smashing through the Queen ship's armor. John followed through the hole, using small thrusters to navigate the alien corridors. The interior was a nightmare of organic walls and scuttling drones. John fought his way deeper, following the pull of the hive mind. He could feel the Queen's presence now, a psychic weight pressing on his thoughts. Finally, he reached the central chamber. The Queen loomed before him, a mountain of chitin and fury. Her mind touched his. "Human," her thoughts boomed in his head. "You dare enter my presence." John stood straight. "I came to deliver a message." "What message could you possibly have for me?" "This one," John said, and threw the virus container. It shattered against the Queen's hide. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Queen screamed, not with her voice, but with her mind. The psychic shriek echoed through every horde ship, every warrior, every drone. The virus spread like wildfire through the hive mind, disrupting connections, severing control. Ships began to drift. Warriors turned on each other. The perfect unity of the horde shattered into chaos. John ran. The Queen thrashed behind him, her death throes shaking the ship apart. He found an escape pod and launched just as the Queen ship began to explode. As he drifted in space, waiting for rescue, John watched the horde fleet tear itself apart. Without the Queen's control, they were just animals. Dangerous animals, but no longer an unstoppable force. The war was not over, but the tide had turned. Humanity had given the galaxy a fighting chance. John floated in the escape pod, watching the chaos unfold through the small window. The Queen ship burned from within, pieces breaking off and spinning into the void. All around it, horde vessels crashed into each other or drifted aimlessly. His radio crackled. "Human John Miller, do you receive?" It was Valix's voice, tight with worry. "I'm here," John replied. Mission accomplished. A Cerealian rescue ship found him 20 minutes later. As they pulled him aboard, John saw the full scale of what he had done. The mighty horde fleet was destroying itself. Back at the command center, celebrations had already begun. Aliens from dozens of species cheered as John entered, but he raised his hand for quiet. "This isn't over," he said. "We hurt them, but we didn't destroy them all. There are still millions of horde out there." But without the queen, Zala began. They'll make new queens, John interrupted. That's how hives work. We need to finish this now, while they're confused. He moved to the central display. Show me where the remaining horde ships are gathering. The map revealed clusters of red dots, smaller groups trying to regroup. John pointed to the largest concentration. There. That's where a new queen will emerge. We need to hit them before that happens. Velix looked uncertain. Our forces are scattered. We do not have enough ships. We don't need ships, John said. We need to think differently. He turned to Zala. You said the horde consume everything organic, right? Yes, that is their nature. What happens if they consume something toxic to them? Something that looks like food but kills them slowly. Zala's eyes widened. A poison trap, but how would we deliver it to so many? John smiled. We give them exactly what they want, a planet full of organic matter, but we make sure it's the last meal they ever eat. The plan took shape quickly. The allied species worked together, combining their knowledge and technology. They found a dead world, one already stripped bare by the horde years ago. Using advanced terraforming equipment, they covered it with a special kind of fungus, one that looked and smelled like rich organic matter, but contained the refined version of John's virus. It's perfect, Zala said, reviewing the scans. The horde will sense abundant food and gather to feed. Once they consume the fungus, the virus will spread through their entire population. John nodded. And this time, there's no queen to stop it. They seeded the planet and waited. Soon enough, Horde scouts detected the new food source. Within hours, thousands of ships converged on the world. The trap worked better than anyone expected. The horde swarmed the planet, devouring everything. By the time they realized something was wrong, it was too late. The virus spread through their bodies and their primitive attempts at new hive connections. Ships began falling from the sky. Warriors collapsed mid-feast. The virus adapted faster than their biology could respond. John watched from orbit with the Allied fleet. Nature has a way of balancing things, he said quietly. The horde thought they were the top of the food chain. They forgot that even the mightiest predator can fall to the smallest organism. Over the next few days, reports came in from across the galaxy. Horde ships were failing everywhere. Warriors were dying. The great swarm that had terrorized countless worlds was collapsing. You did it, Valak said to John. You saved us all. John shook his head. We did it. All of us together. I just showed you that fighting back was possible. As the last horde ship fell silent, the allied species began to realize what had happened. They had not just survived. They had won, and they had done it by working together, each contributing their unique strengths. The galaxy would never be the same. The horde were broken, and in their place stood a new alliance of species, united by their shared victory. All because one human had reminded them how to hope. The victory celebrations lasted for weeks across the galaxy. On every world that had survived the horde, beings gathered to share stories of the human who had changed everything. But John Miller sat alone in the Cerellian Command Center, staring at a cup of synthesized coffee. You are troubled, Valak said, entering the room. The war is over. We won. John nodded slowly. I know. That's what worries me. I do not understand. Back home, we have a saying. Today's victory is tomorrow's problem. The horde kept everyone united. Now they're gone. What happens next? As if to answer his question, alerts began flashing on the screens. Not warnings of attack, but diplomatic messages, border disputes, trade disagreements, old rivalries resurfacing. They're already starting to fight each other, John sighed. Valix's scales dimmed with concern. Without a common enemy, the alliance fractures. Unless we give them something else to unite them, John said, standing up. Something better than fear. Over the next few days, John worked with Zala and the other scientists. They compiled all the technological advances made during the war, medical breakthroughs, new energy sources, improved farming methods. We learned more in these few months than in centuries of peace, Zala observed. Crisis drives innovation, John agreed. But we don't need another crisis. We need to share what we've learned. He called for another galactic broadcast. This time, instead of a call to arms, he offered an invitation to grow. The Horde forced us to work together, John said to the assembled representatives. We share technology, resources, knowledge. Look what we accomplished. Imagine what we could do if we chose to continue this cooperation. He proposed the formation of a galactic council, not for war, but for mutual advancement. Species would share discoveries, help each other rebuild, explore the universe together. But who would lead such a council? Asked a crystalline being from the outer rim. Not me, John said firmly. This isn't about humans leading anyone. It's about all of us moving forward together. Each species brings something unique. That's our strength. The discussions continued for days. There were arguments, disagreements, moments when it seemed the whole idea would fall apart. But slowly, agreement emerged. On the final day, Valix approached John privately. Will you stay? Help us build this new alliance. John smiled sadly. I need to go home. My family doesn't even know where I am. But I think humanity is ready to join the galactic community now. How will you return? Zala asked. The summoning was one way. Actually, John grinned, I've been working on that. Turns out your transportation technology just needed a human perspective. We're really good at finding loopholes. The day of John's departure arrived. Representatives from every allied species gathered to see him off. The modified transporter hummed with power. Before I go, John said, I want you all to remember something. You didn't win because I was here. You won because you chose to fight, to hope, to work together. That strength was always in you. He stepped onto the platform, then paused. Oh, and when you make official contact with Earth, maybe don't mention the whole summoning humans without permission thing right away. We can be touchy about that. The transporter activated. In a flash of light, John Miller vanished, returning to his apartment in Chicago where his coffee was still warm. Across the galaxy, the work of building began. The Galactic Council formed, with representatives from every species. They shared technology, explored new worlds, and slowly healed the wounds left by the Horde. And on Earth, governments scrambled to understand why every telescope suddenly showed hundreds of alien ships approaching peacefully, broadcasting a simple message. We come in friendship, seeking the homeworld of John Miller, the human who taught us to hope. The age of isolation was over. Humanity's place among the stars had begun. And somewhere in Chicago, an accountant smiled as he sipped his coffee, knowing that sometimes the universe just needs someone willing to stand up and say, enough. The greatest adventure was just beginning.